Hello and welcome back. So today we're going to talk about polymorphism. Now we're just going to have a little chat about abstract classes first because that's really important. So an abstract class is something that you do not create you have no intention of creating a new object from. We use it just as an implementation, so you don't necessarily create a new object, but you have things like abstract methods where there's no implementation, but it has to be overridden by the concrete class within it. Here we have our three variables: private, final, string. As usual, string is a capital S because it's a reference type. String, first name, last name, and security, social security. We have our constructor. And we also let our parameters within our constructor equal the private instance variables that we've created. We have our public string getters because we need to access these. They don't change throughout, so there's no setters associated with it because they're marked as final. And here we have a string representation of employee object. Now, polymorphism is related to inheritance, and the reason being is we'll come to in a minute, but we have here our normal thing to do, which was source, and then override, implement methods. Usually there's 5 that we can inherit from object because every class within Java is inherited from java.lang and .object, and it always has clone equals finalize hashcode and toString. So the toString representation here is going to represent an employee object, and then here we have an abstract method must be overridden by concrete classes by those that are creating a new object. So we have employee, and then employee, because it's related to polymorphism, we're going to extend employee and then use it for different purposes. So polymorphism is coding in the general, so it's generalization. And then we expect each of those objects to know what to do based on the parent class or the superclass. And we have here, for instance, the commission employee. So it extends employee. It uses the word super, as we spoke about before, the 3 keywords within inheritance: extend, super, and here an override. And we also override the method that we had to override here at the bottom, which was public abstract double earnings. So every time that we extend employee, we have to override the methods that are within the parent class. And here we have public double earnings, and we get the commission rate and the gross sales. We should take these to get first name. You can do as well. This might be changing it then to a static, so there's going to be problems with it. So we're going to leave it as first name here, and I'll come back to that reason in a minute. When we go to payroll, then we have our entry point for our program. So our public static void main string with a capital S as usual. It's an array and it is called args. We have commission employee, and we instantiate a new object of commission employee with everything passed through it. And here we have our employee as an array. We instantiate it in 4 different elements within the array, and then we access each of those 4 elements from 0 as usual, 0-based counting. And we allocate then the commission employee into employee. And we will come to more in a minute. I'm going to write out more code and then I'll explain it as I go along, and especially the meaning of abstract, because that's really important. Okay, see you in a minute. So we're going to do this bit by bit. So the reason why this then isn't going to recognize it is if we do not put in these as well into the constructor. So if I take this out again, you can see that it's going to say change it to protected or use a getter or do something, because it's not going to recognize that you're taking it, you're extending it from employee. And like I said before, extends meaning like an extension of a family, so it's inheriting. So here we have to put in our string first name, last name, and social security number, and that's the reason why. So super then knows that this first name is part of the superclass, this last name is also part of the superclass, and this string social security number is part of the social security number here. So that's also the case when we use a different class here for base plus commission employee, and we extend the commission employee. Because it's one-to-one, we have commission employee extending employee, and then we have base plus commission employee extending commission employee. So we just have one other instance variable to go with base plus commission employee. We extend the commission employee, and again we have to write out our string. Java is verbose. Our string first name, last name, social security number, so everything from the commission employee constructor. So all of this here, if I copy this and put it in here, so if I was just to create this, that would be the constructor as is with just one instance variable, but we need all of the rest of them. All of the same constructor from commission employee here, and then we invoke the commission employee's first name, last name, social security, gross sales, and commission rate from the super. So we also have to do another thing which is really important, which is using the override methods within the superclass, because we have here, we can go override, and we can see here that there are 3 different override methods to implement. We are going to take, and you can see here it's marked with a little A for abstract. So, and we also have our object, but there is no toString because it's already implemented within employee. And we don't have a toString here within commission employee because it's already implemented within the abstract employee. So even though we use the override method in commission employee and the earnings within commission employee from employee, we also need to take the toString from employee here because we've inherited it from object. So if you think of it like in steps, it's just getting more general as opposed to specific because it's going to use polymorphism. And then we're also going to take the earnings one as well. So now you can see that it auto-generates the stubs to go with it, the method stubs, but here, for instance, it's not going to be the same calculation for the earnings for base plus employee as it is for otherwise if you're using super as well, we know this already, that if we're using super employee earnings, it's going to go look for the override method here, but if I didn't use the word super, it would cause a stack overflow. So we'd have an error. Here we have return, and we're going to get the base salary. Can I do that? Let's see. I don't have it set here, so I need to make a get salary first. So public double get base salary, and here we return base salary. So we return base salary, and then we want to add in, because it's base salary plus commission employee, that's the name of the class. We know the logic because even just the name of the class looking at it. Then we also need the commission employee earnings. So if I go back to the commission employee, and you can see here there's earnings with get commission and get gross sales. So we just use a super plus super earnings, because we know that the superclass from base plus commission employee is commission employee. It extends commission employee. It doesn't extend employee. So we have this already. Then we have our toString, which we also have an override method for. And we're going to now return our string format as usual. And you can see here that we are going to say, oh, we are going to have our percentage S's all written out, and we're going to return our base salary even, and then our the rest of them as well. So we have another bit to go here. Oh, we also have to put in a euro sign as well, and a percentage to F for our 2 number precision. As we know, the double default is 6 figures, so we only want 2 at the end of our number, so we're going to just have the 2 in front of it for our double, and we're going to say base salaried here, then base salary, oh, white, that's wrong, our 2 little things have to go there, and we also need to say get super dot to, there we go, comma, base salary, and get base salary. So here, if we look, this is one placeholder for the string, so that's going to be this. Another placeholder for the string, which is our string representation from our from our employee to string, and our base salary then is going to be the double, which is the other placeholder with our 0.2. So I'm going to write out a little bit more, come back to you in a second, and show you what happens next. Hello, so now we're back in payroll, and we have completed our base plus commission class, which we already spoke about there a minute ago. So it takes the toString from the employee, which if I go to here, that is the get first name, get last name, and get social security number. Then the employee obviously then is used within commission employee, and then commission employee is used within base plus commission employee, and so payroll then is our main entry. So I'm just going to move that around to make it easier. So we have employee is our abstract class here, then we have our object commission employee here, which extends employee, which we already know that we need to invoke part of the constructor from employee within commission employee, otherwise it will not work, and it will tell you to change either to protected or get first name within super, which we do not want to do. And we implement the principle of least privilege here. So it's a good software engineering to always use the getters and setters within the classes, so you can just hone in on the problem if there's a problem. You don't need to access the data directly. So here we have our first name, last name, social security number, and then in addition we have our gross sales and commission rate. And this is all the normal, which we have the override as well. So base plus commission, then we extend from commission employee, and then in addition we just use the base salary. So we have our same constructor from commission employee, all of this is from commission employee, and then we just add in addition double base salary. So we then super the constructor from commission employee, and then we use this, which is a reference to itself, which is the base salary here, to allocate from when the constructor is called. I want to assign it to the base salary within this class. So here it returns base salary. As usual, we use the get for it, and here we have our override methods, which this is coming from our earnings from our commission employee, and our toString is from employee. So now if I go to payroll, we have instantiated a new object for base plus commission employee as new. We have 4, which I'm going to reduce down to 2, just for demonstration purposes. And we have our enhanced 4 here, which is really useful because we don't need to use a counter, so it's very flexible. And here it references so if I was to use, let's say, the word employee here, it won't know what it's referencing to. So you actually do need to say employee object. This is what it's called within this class. It's called imp. And then we're going to return it into all of these. So if I press play, it might take a few minutes. So we have an illegal format, which we need to process first, which is in payroll 20. So here, invokes toString. So the toString then is obviously off. So I'm going to go fix that, show you what's happening. One of these might be calling one of the incorrect toString problems. So we'll see in a second. So a simple extra %s was needed here for the first name, last name, social security number, and then the base salary attached to it as well. So when I play now, it's going to produce the title, which is employees processed, and then the two with the base salary. So that's it for today. I hope you learned a little bit about polymorphism and the word abstract. So the word abstract is meaning basically you're not going to instantiate a new object with it. So if I was going to, then I'd use something like employee here. Employee equals new, and then put something in it. So employee. So we know that the constructor has 3 strings, so I'm just going to rob these ones here because it's first name, last name, and SSN. And you can see it's already giving me cannot instantiate the type employee. So it's just used as the word states in English. It's abstract, it's not concrete. So it's just used within the others to create an object with basically a blueprint that you can use. So with employee, we have a blueprint of all of these data, and then we have commission employee that uses employee, and then we have base plus employee, commission employee that extends commission employee, and then payroll invokes it. But we can create an array to put in these objects within it as well, and we can iterate through. So great, I hope you liked the video. Give it a like, or give it a comment below, or please provide feedback. Send it to learncomputerswithali@gmail.com. I'd love to hear your feedback, and thanks for watching. Happy programming.